America. And so it's like there are big things that are coming out about this fall that's happening. I love that you pointed out that, because obviously we all know, that the fall comes after the Pride, and so it's interesting that you brought that out about June.
Right. And I just want to point out in this interview how there's so many incredible coincidences that it's insanely amazing, because there aren't any coincidences. And we're going to go through this presentation. You're just going to go, oh my goodness, this is incredible. How did this happen? Because it was by God's design.
Yep.
Period. So, the first thing that we can look at it, the pride cometh before the fall. You go to the next slide, right? So we're going to go to page 22. So what are we looking for? We're looking for the birth of a new era. So before you have birth, you have what, right? You have conception. Right. Mm-hmm. So the child is conceived, then the birth process is 9 months, and then you have birth. Right before the birth, you have screaming, yelling, you have a freak out session, because especially mom has never given birth before. First birth is pretty traumatic, right? Mm-hmm. And when you read Matthew 24, it says, "You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, some things must happen, but the end is still to come. These are the beginnings of birth pains." Okay, well, let's look at this. If conception was on God's day one, because the pagan day one is January 1. God's day one is Rosh Hashanah, which was September 25 of last year. Mm-hmm. Let's take 9 months forward, and we get to June 25, the end of June.
Wow.
Now, so why is the end of June important? Well, because it's, again, this is Galatians 4, but when the fullness of time had come, God sent forth his son. And then the clocks changed from BC to AD. We are looking for the birth of a new era. This is huge what's coming, okay? Mm-hmm. Because an era means, like, when Christ came on the earth, it was 4,000 years of the Jews, and now we're in 2,000 years of the Gentiles. Are you with me? Okay. Yeah. And before Jesus Christ showed up, what did you have? You had in the wilderness John the Baptist. What was he doing? Shouting, "Prepare the way for the Lord." What are we doing right now? We are doing nothing but preparing the way for the Lord. And while he was in the wilderness, he was mocked, right? And think about, he was in the season prior to the glory manifesting. So he was in the evil season. And so we're stepping into the birth of a new era. So the birth process indicates that we should have a new era birthed on or about, because why? Because having kids, Stacy and David, there might be an expected delivery date, but the actual date can vary, right? Mm-hmm. So it could be a week early, a week later. We don't know.
As much as 2 weeks in one case.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So the point I'm trying to make is, see, God has spoken that the day that he strikes and in the final kill shot is a secret. That's why it's a secret, because we may calculate. I can calculate using this process, but I'm just telling you the actual finished date is a secret, and how God does it will be a secret too, because if he revealed it, then they wouldn't have done two of the most historic things in the Bible. They wouldn't have killed Jesus Christ on Passover. Right. Talk about falling into a play. Like, they walked into that one, right? And then talk about walking into another one, right? They walked into the Red Sea and God destroyed them. See, right now, evil's walking into a God's trap. So what's going on is crazy and ugly as things look. Evil is literally walking into their own destruction, which is about to happen in the end of June. So they are walking in and they're about to witness their utter and complete destruction into the end of June. We just don't know the exact day or the hour this is going to happen, but we know the calculated time is the last week of June. The calculation indicates June 25. Well, why is that important? Because on page 23, when you look at the fullness of time, Corona came on the scene. The first diagnosed case outside of Wuhan was on January 12th. Well, let's run the calculation. A time times and a half a time, 3.5 years, takes us exactly to the exact same date, June 25.
Wow.
So June 25, be running, and this is the cycle that indicates that, gold topped in 2011, and it wasn't until the year 2020 when it made it finally a new high. Do you understand how powerful that calculation was? So everything changed. So by the end of June, everything they're plotting comes to an end, which I'm trying to illustrate on page 21. So on page 21 shows that end of June is the end of evil. So all their plots, and this is the crazy part too, what would be the day or the interesting time point at the end of June? What else was there? The summer solstice. Well, how crazy is that? So another coincidence, right? Another coincidence. You have the summer solstice on page 23, the day of page 3. Page 3 shows the day of most light. Well, what does light do to darkness? It destroys and it exposes the deals done in the dark.
Yep.
How many coincidences do we need that are all screaming that the end of June is the end of the season God gave evil? See, evil didn't take this season. God gave him this season. Why would God give evil a season of 3.5 years? 2 reasons. Number one, he loves his creation, including these evil people who decided to work for Satan, okay? They let evil into them, okay? But on the other, end of the coin, God created them. So he said, turn from your wicked ways, O wayward sheep. But, several have, but most haven't. Most have dug in their heels like Pharaoh. But on the other side of it too, the 3.5 years of evil that has been exposed, we get to see, we get to go to, the Clay Clark tour. We get to turn on the TV and, all the exposure of everything evil that's been done behind, now we see what was going on in the time of Hitler. Do you get it? We have now seen what was going on in the time of Hitler.
Wow. This is really
And
interesting.
what are they bringing on? They're trying to bring on a one world government, right? Clay is the master of exposing all this stuff, right? These, we battle not against flesh and blood, but principalities of darkness. Like the slide you have on right here. You literally have, all the presidents, they were placed there. They weren't elected, right? Except for Trump and Van Buren, right? Every one of them have bloodlines to King Henry, or I think King John of England. Every one of them have a bloodline to it, right?
I've seen that.
And
I even watched that tracing of them. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's great. And then you've got, JFK, who basically had the bloodline, but actually went against it because then you had enough, right? So whatever it was, he went against them, and he actually exposed the synagogue of Satan, right, which is written in Revelation 2, verse 9. It's right in God called them out, right in Revelation. But, these are demonic, satanic bloodlines. So why do they do this stuff, all this crazy stuff about blood? Because it's about the blood. It's all about the blood. It's the if you go back to you did a great job with several interviews you did past week with Trey, and he talks about all of this. I watched one just yesterday, David. You did that with Trey, and he does an incredible job of exposing all of these things. So I don't need to get into all of it because he knows it better than I do. But all of this goes back to it talks about in Genesis where it says the men of renown, right? And the men of renown, basically why? Because they're thrown out of heaven, and then back to where we started. It's about Eden. This is about getting back to Eden, right? Jesus Christ came on the earth. He was a second Adam because of what Adam did.
Yep.
Right?
Came to make
That's
it
the
right.
bottom line. He had to make it right. But they also knew at creation, God and Jesus knew at creation that man would fall.
Sure.
Because we aren't gods, and that's just the bottom line. So you can't build a nation, on the shoulders of man. You can only build a nation under God. That's so important because all men fell. Look at the 40 kings. There was 44 kings in Israel, and then Israel collapsed. But every one of the 44 kings fell. There wasn't one that was without sin. In all of Israel, for all the time of the 44 kings, there wasn't one that was without. Everyone sinned. Everyone. Right, and then it's coincidence. And then what a coincidence, right? And then the 45th king, that was the end at 44, right? Well, what happened? Trump was 45. What a coincidence! You see how we're replaying what the time of Israel, right? So Israel had 44 kings. United States has 44 kings, with Obama being 44, right? And then the United States fell, as you know it, at 45. Get it?
Okay, can you walk through
Yeah.
that box on the right there a little bit where you got summer, fall, winter?
Yes, let's get into that.
June 21st, 2023.
Right. So what we're stepping into is the fall of evil, which will be actually the mortal wound that's about to happen to evil. So Kim Clement wrote a prophecy about summer will be the mediator between spring and fall. Well, if you run 3.5 years, that takes us from when Corona came on scene, the seals of Revelation began to open. The first seal manifest was Corona. 3.5 years takes us to the end of June, which the end of June then is a summer solstice, and summer will be what? The mediator between spring and fall, so the fall can do its work in America. And so what the prophetic word was, and this correlates directly with cycles, right? There is a possibility that we could have seen gold and silver take off vertical in April per our last interview. Didn't happen because we never saw the angel of death. When the angel of death strikes, okay, understand, we're going to know, because Egypt freed Israel after the angel of death, because what? The enemy lost the dearest thing they hold close, their children, right, or their firstborn. Get it? So after the firstborn of Egypt died, they're holding on to their most desired possession, right? Died, and then they let Israel go, and that was the Exodus. So because we haven't seen the Exodus yet, we have Pentecost coming up in the next important season, right? Well, an important feast. So when God moves typically on his feast, we're stepping into Pentecost here, and then that leads us then into, coincidentally, if you run 25 days forward, that takes you directly into the summer solstice, which is the end of June. And then, so bottom line is, we are about to witness the fulfillment of the Kim Clement prophecies. Okay.
Can I address real fast, Bo, the Pentecost? It seems obviously it is a big deal, but there's right now Mike Bickle from IHOP Church out of Kansas City got 1 million people. 1 million people between March the 7th, I'm sorry, not March 7th, May 7th and May the 28th, which is Pentecost, to fast and pray for Israel and for our country. Well,
that's powerful.
It is. And then Sid Roth joined him in that, which Sid Roth,
a million Christians agree on anything. It's unbelievable.
He's gotten his listeners to do the same thing. When you hear that, I mean, something big is coming at Pentecost. It has to, with that many people that are fasting and praying.
Amen. Yeah, my wife, the same thing. She's doing the same thing too right now. She's fasting, and so I could commend her on that. But basically, yeah, 1 million people is crazy. But we're setting up the stage for a 1 billion soul harvest. Yeah. And God's got this all planned out. And interesting, Kim Clement's prophetic word from when he actually got a stroke to when he passed away. Interesting. Now, what a coincidence. He gets a stroke in September 7 years ago. This past September, from when would have been a conception, right? And then he dies in November, which is leading into what's called Hypnotic November of his prophetic word. If you want to play that video, just 3 minutes, it's worth listening to, because it's better to listen to video than actually me describe it. So I'm going to play that video.
Summer reaches to spring and to fall. I will be the mediator, says summer. I will uncover yet beneath the earth there is a rage, eruptions. Summer says, why choose they me? Why do the tornadoes, the hurricanes choose me? I am summer. I bring smiles. I bring sunshine. I bring warmth. Yet there is a tumultuous rendering that is coming. I stand to protect spring, but fall, you are rebelling. Or is it that possibly the Spirit of God will cause many to fall in fall. Then there is the earth that wishes to tremble. Shake! For the nations of the earth stand waiting. However, there is an uncovering of great evil. And I will start from the top. I have shaken the Democrats and will shake the Republicans even more. But remember, when these tremors and when these tumultuous moments happen, Summer says, I will take it so that the fall can do its work in America. Summer, take it. For thus says the Lord, I will prosper my people. And during the fall there shall be many that shall fall, and many that shall rise from the dust. For the summer shall bring forth much in the temperatures. Strange July, hypnotic November, and oh Christmas, where winter shall say, and me, I will make them happy. For God says, I have chosen each season to manifest something.
Wow. That's huge.
So yeah, I know, it's amazing. And for some key points, what I want to address here is, summer will be the mediator between spring and fall. But basically what it's indicating, what he specifically stated was, we're going to see the wealth transfer in July. Okay, so, I've been talking about people, buying precious metals and holding God's money, Haggai 2 verse 8. Now, I don't want to give financial advice. We don't give financial advice, but, we know that I stand on the word of God, and so do you. Okay, I know you both do. And so if God's going to flip the financial tables, he's going to destroy the fiat-based money system, and he's going to raise his money, gold and silver. So the prophetic word is gold and silver are going to go crazy beginning potentially end up in June here, I believe June onwards, maybe middle to the end of June and into July. And this is game over. The fiat money system is about to blow up. Okay.
Wow.
Why? Because if you look also to page 18, what's about to happen? We talked about evil 3.5 years and then glory 3.5 years, right? Mm-hmm. So the end of evil is what's written in Revelation. It's Revelation 13, verse 11 through 12. This is the mortal wound. Okay, people, we need a longer podcast. Maybe one day we can get together and talk about, we can go through all end times, but just on a crunch basis here, I want to give like a detail of where we are specifically. This is the mortal wound. So the collapse of evil is the mortal wound, which sets the stage for 3.5 years of glory forward. Because later in the future, if you read about the mortal wound, it says in Revelation 13, verses 11 through 12, and then I saw another beast rise out of the earth. It had 2 horns like a lamb, and it spoke like a dragon. It exercised all the authority of the first beast. Okay, so what you've seen here for 3.5 years, it's going to exercise all the authority of the first beast, which is Mystery Babylon, and makes the earth and its inhabitants worship this beast that we're watching right now, whose mortal wound was healed. Okay, so they're going to rise again in the future with a different name, different flag colors, different whatever, okay? But they rise again because the mortal wound is healed. So we're running these Daniel cycles into the Great Tribulation. We're not in the tribulation, but we're running these 7-year patterns as we progress towards the 7-year tribulation. I've talked about in prior interviews, but it's a longer discussion we can have. But I want people to understand. So the end of the evil system that we're witnessing, the end of the season, specifically is the mortal wound that's discussed in Revelation 13, and more specifically, it's also discussed specifically at the prophecy of Daniel, page 12, and this is a 2,500 year prophecy, which takes us into page 13, the fall of Babylon. So this is it here. So while you were watching, a stone carved out by no human hand. So while you are watching means we're about to watch God intervene intervene and destroy evil as we head between now into the end of June. Now, the interesting part is also, which I just received recently, is why the importance of Pentecost, right? So further down the slide deck, if we scroll over to page, let me pull that page up here, find it on Pentecost, page 81. On page 81, what you'll see is ascension, right? So at ascension, what happened was you had three whistleblowers come forth and based on exactly ascension, three whistleblowers come forward and talk about the corruption within the FBI. Okay.
Wow.
This wasn't a coincidence, because also on Pentecost in the year 2020, that's the day that the Edenville Dam broke in the township of Hope, Michigan, which then set the stage on Pentecost. The third seal of Revelation manifest, the latter rain was birthed, and what happened to George Floyd riots occurred on that specific weekend, which means that Pentecost is May 28th of this year, and you've got, the millions of people right now praying for Israel. So something's about to manifest here. I, in my heart, believe as we go into, page 82, Pentecost, and then the latter rain is 3 years old. And so I believe we're going to have something incredible start to happen right here, as May ends, because we've also had the prophetic words of Mayday, 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 Mayday.
Yes.
Right? And then you got to page 68. So since the angel of death did not strike at Passover, right, the next potential point could be Pentecost. Well, this is another coincidence. So if you run from Pentecost, it took 18 days for Israel to leave Egypt and get to the Red Sea. They camped at the Red Sea for 8 days. So it was 25 days. So 25 days from Pentecost, coincidentally, is the summer solstice.
Wow.
The day of most light. So all I'm trying to illustrate is there are no coincidences.
Nope.
God is in complete control of it all. We're about to see the manifestation of glory on this earth, and it's going to shock everybody. It will fulfill the words of the prophets, and this world, from Kim Clement to Julie Green to Hank Kuhneman to Kent Christmas to these incredible prophets and many more that have stated prophetic words. This is going to be a historic completion to a 3.5 year, 1,260-day pattern as we head into the end of June here. Something incredible goes down as we head into the end of June, but I bet there's a high probability we see something trigger here still in May to cause a Mayday, Mayday, Mayday moment. Then that leads us into the end of June, and we will see the manifestation of glory on this earth. There's going to be a 24-hour window the world is never going to forget.
Wow.
This year,
Come on.
Amen.
this year, before or into the end of June. So we win.